Imagine you're alone in the darkest forest you've ever seen. No moon, no stars, just blackness stretching endlessly in every direction. The air is cold, heavy with silence. Suddenly you hear it, faint whispers, not the wind through the leaves, actual voices calling your name. You turn, but no one's there. The whispers grow louder, desperate. You try to run, but the forest won't let you leave. This isn't just any forest. It's a trap, a place where people vanish without a trace. And those whispers, they're the last thing you'll ever hear. This is the true story of Blackwood's Forest, the place that has haunted generations with its secrets. And tonight you're going to hear exactly what happened, if you dare. In the late 1800s, a small town sat on the edge of a sprawling forest known as Blackwoods. The trees were ancient, twisted giants that seemed to watch anyone who dared enter. For decades, the townsfolk avoided the deepest parts of the forest, telling stories of strange lights and sounds that didn't belong to this world. But everything changed when a group of lumberjacks arrived, determined to harvest the rich timber hidden inside. They set up camp near the forest's heart and began cutting. The first few days were uneventful, aside from the eerie silence that seemed to swallow the usual forest sounds. But one evening, Thomas Miller, a strong, experienced lumberjack, went out alone to collect firewood and never returned. His friends called out through the dark woods, but only the rustling leaves answered. They searched for days, but no sign of Thomas was ever found, not even a footprint or broken branch. Over the next few weeks, more men vanished, always near the edges of the Blackwoods. Some claimed to have heard whispers calling their names, soft voices from just beyond sight. Others reported seeing shadowy figures between the trees, impossible to focus on. One man, James Carter, came back from a night in the forest visibly shaken. He said something invisible had grabbed his ankle and tried to pull him deeper into the woods. He barely escaped. The town grew uneasy. Stories spread about the forest being cursed or haunted by angry spirits. But the lumberjacks, driven by money and desperation, refused to quit. They hired a local guide, Old Man Hawkins, who warned them not to go too deep. "Blackwoods don't like strangers," he said with a grim smile. In the fall of 1892, the mayor gathered a search party of the bravest men to find the missing workers and discover the truth. Armed with lanterns and rifles, they entered the forest just as dusk painted the sky red. The deeper they went, the colder and darker it became, unnatural cold that seeped into their bones. Hours passed with no sign of the missing men. Then the whispers started. At first faint, like the wind sighing through the leaves. But soon unmistakable voices called their names, soft, pleading, sometimes angry. One by one, men claimed to see figures watching from the shadows. Tall, thin silhouettes with glowing eyes that vanished when looked at directly. That night, the men camped inside the forest. Around the fire, the whispers grew louder, circling them like hungry beasts. Some claimed to hear their own secrets whispered back to them. And one man screamed when he heard a voice mimicking his wife's. The night was long and filled with horrors. Branches snapped without wind. Unseen footsteps approached and retreated, and a cold breath brushed their necks. When morning came, the search party was fractured. 3 men had vanished, their tents left empty. The survivors stumbled out, pale and silent, eyes wild with terror. They spoke only in whispers about the forest's guardian, a malevolent force that fed on fear and souls. The town sealed off Blackwoods after that, marking it a place of death. Even now, the Blackwoods refuse to let go of their secrets. Stories pour in from visitors, each more unsettling than the last. A young woman named Emily camped alone near the forest's edge last autumn. Around midnight, she awoke to faint, soft whispers floating through the trees, calling her name over and over. She thought it was her imagination until she saw dozens of tiny muddy footprints circling her tent. There were no animals nearby, and the footprints formed no clear pattern, like they were watching her. Another tale comes from a seasoned hunter named Marcus. He entered Blackwoods one foggy morning, only to have his compass spin wildly out of control. His phone and GPS failed immediately. As he walked deeper, he felt an icy grip clutch his ankle. He spun around. Nothing. But the sensation stayed, as if invisible fingers were trailing him. Terrified, Marcus ran, but the forest seemed to stretch endlessly. For hours, he felt the presence following him. Whispers just out of sight, shadows shifting between the trees. He swears that something breathed down his neck, and his heart pounded like it would burst. He escaped, but said the forest didn't let him leave entirely. Since then, he hears whispers every night, calling him back. A few months ago, a group of campers dared to stay overnight near the heart of Blackwoods. They joked about the legends, but by midnight, laughter turned to silence. One of them, David, woke to a faint glow outside his tent. Peering out, he saw small orbs, ghostly lights, that floated silently through the trees. When he tried to follow, they vanished into the darkness. Suddenly, David felt cold hands grip his shoulder. He turned quickly. No one was there. The whispers began again, but this time, they were frantic, desperate. "Join us!" The next morning, David was gone. His friends found only his footprints leading into the woods, stopping abruptly. No trace of him was ever found. There's a trail in Blackwoods locals called the Vanishing Trail. It's infamous for swallowing hikers whole. People who walk it say the forest changes around them. The trail twists back on itself, impossible to follow. Richard Evans, an adventurer, documented his experience there last year. His GPS died. His watch stopped. For hours, he heard footsteps behind him, sometimes a whisper calling his name. Every time he turned, there was nothing but empty trees. At one moment, the forest fell eerily silent. No wind, no animals, just stillness. Then a voice whispered in his ear, "Stay with us." He ran all night to escape and barely made it out. Richard refuses to ever return. Visitors also report finding strange symbols etched deep into the bark of Blackwoods trees. The carvings are ancient-looking, covered in moss, and no expert has ever been able to decipher them. Nearby, small piles of bones are sometimes found, too tiny for deer, too perfect for any natural predator's leftovers. A paranormal researcher once set up cameras to capture evidence. His footage showed shadowy figures darting between the trees, but every time he tried to focus, the images blurred into static. Strangest of all, glowing eyes sometimes appear, watching from the darkness, silent and unblinking. No one knows what exactly haunts the Blackwoods. Is it the restless souls of the missing lumberjacks, trapped forever in the trees? Or an ancient spirit that protects the forest from outsiders? Some say the forest itself is alive, a dark, conscious entity whispering promises to lure people deeper until they become lost forever. If you ever find yourself near Blackwoods at night and you hear your name called, don't answer. Don't turn around. Run as fast as you can, because the forest whispers only to those it wants, and once it chooses you, there's no escape.